Blood and Guts was absolute CHOAS. Much CHOAS.
Hold on.
In both of those rings.
I see we're all just, because it's not just you, it's the live chat as well. I guess we're all just comfortable making fun of dyslexia. Like, I guess we're all just comfortable with that these days, are we?
You don't make mistakes usually.
I think you'll find I make them all the time. You not see me try to spell Asker.
Oh, that's difficult though.
I've got this thing. I get letters the wrong way around. I had to be taught at school. I had to write dad because I would get my B's and D's the wrong way around. But it's fine.
Bad.
We're all okay making fun of dyslexia. It's okay. It's 2024. I guess this is just the thing we're comfortable with now.
I'm just saying, Okada would be pretty upset. Okada wasn't a member of CHOAS, the worst faction ever in wrestling.
No, they have got Toriano in it. You take that back.
I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, B.A.B. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
You teed it up.
I know, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, leave a comment down below celebrating dyslexia or something. And send in your Omegachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5 as we discuss pretty much it wasn't a full hour like we got last week, but it's another big, chunky, meaty, substantial match. It's Blood and Guts 2024.
I think it was like 45 minutes of the show, maybe sort of nearing the 50-minute mark. But yeah, like I thought they might do it at the top of the hour to get that, that second hour, top of the hour rating. Because we were talking about this in the office today. I think the show's really going to struggle when the ratings come out today because it was going up against the presidential address. So there's every chance that it's going to do quite a bad rating this week. So maybe you're trying to time it to make sure that you are not competing against.
But the Biden speech was only 10 minutes, but I suppose then you have all the fallout news discussion stuff that people would watch as well.
We have seen, like, historically, news has always affected, in the same way that sports really affects WWE ratings, and it does affect AEW ratings as well, news really affects AEW ratings.
But the Blood and Guts match itself, there's so much to dive into, and unfortunately, I haven't really spoken to you about it. I think we'll end on a flat note because I didn't think the finish of the match didn't climax and transcend the action. It was a downbeat in a bit of a repetitive way, I would say, considering previous years' finishes. But I loved this match. Everything else that happened in it, I thought was magnificent.
I think we can look back at the 4 Blood and Guts matches that they've done. Every single one of them have all got the same issue, which is that the finish falls flat.
Oh, not the Kingston. Well, I guess, but that was on purpose, and that was a masterstroke.
That's exactly it, right? So, I think that's the only one that they've really nailed. But, the people thought the Jericho one fell a bit flat because
he fell a bit comfy.
Well, and then he fell very comfily. Last year's one, because the camera sort of missed it a little bit, no one really knew what had happened. This year's one, they addressed that by having microphones involved. But even then, so it's the really funny thing, because War Games is supposed to end in, surrender. And WWE changed it to pinfalls. But you can see why WWE moved it to pinfalls, because that is a better visual cue than having to do something like, hey, does your team surrender now?
You don't even get the no.
You have to have someone surrendering on behalf of someone else. And they've done that in 3 of the 4 now, because, what were they called? The Inner Circle surrendered on behalf of Jericho being pushed off. Last year was Moxley surrendering on behalf of Wheeler Yuta. And this year was
Matt and surrendering for Jack Perry.
Yeah, and I don't think they've done any of those 3 particularly well.
Oh, I thought I kind of like the previous ones. And I love the heel act sort of showing some humanity, which is why I actually really like the Blackpool Combat Club finish from last year.
You've changed your tune. You hated it last year.
Well, I think they just that was the camera work, though.
That's more what I was talking about.
If they caught it properly, I think that's a really nice story to tell. And it actually properly turned Blackpool Combat Club babyface, or at least tweeners who can be babyfaces when needed, off the back of it. I don't want that kind of humanity from the Elite.
No.
The Elite are not in a point in their run where I want to see them even start showing heroic traits.
No.
And it's a difficult thing to juggle because you do want to build up Jack Perry. Me personally, I would say you got to make this guy credible because I still don't really take him as a tippity top star. So I appreciate that they're trying to build him, and that he's in the Raven pose. He's handcuffed to the inner cage of the wall for the finish. He gets kendo stick shots. No, I won't quit. He gets the hopefully gimmicked.
So apparently it was gimmicked.
Tell that to Corey Graves.
Well, he deleted that tweet.
He did delete that
because
tweet.
He then found out it was gimmicks.
It was a well-meaning tweet, I think.
He was very clear. It was like, I'm not making this an us versus them thing. People will make it an us versus them thing, but I'm just saying, let's not do unprotected chair shots, which is a correct response.
And Mark Briscoe hammers Perry.
I would say the correct verbiage there is that he twatted him with the chair.
Absolutely twatted that C word in there. And a lot of crazy things happened in this match. The scissors in mouth.
Yeah.
Sort of a sandwich barbed wire board. But that was the most shocking thing for me.
Was Anthony Bowens running wild with scissors?
No, sorry. The most shocking thing was the chair shot to the head.
Well, it should be. You want to try and build the crescendo stuff. Like, you do kendo stick shots.
Do some kendo
sticks. I've also mealy-mouthed. So you do kendo sticks. Then you do the chair shots. Then you build up to the gasoline and setting him on fire. What I quite liked about Jack Perry in there is that even with the fire, he wasn't the one that was quitting. It was someone else who quit on his behalf.
Yeah.
It was Matthew was the one who was like, okay, you've taken this too far. I'll give you the title shot at All In. And Jack Perry's face was just like, I would have gone on fire. I'd have done anything for the Elite.
So I guess let's talk about the finish because we're in the finish. Matt Jackson says, I'll give you the title shot, Darby. And I'm like, okay, what about all the other guys? And the Acclaimed want the tag title match.
They've already got their shot.
They've got their shot.
Yeah.
And then Mark Briscoe gets nothing. I feel like if they went into this match with, if Team AEW win, they all get title shots for members of the Elite. Those are some good stakes. It's not control of the company, like I want, but, there's that. And then you don't get this weird double bit where Darby's like, yeah, give me a title shot. He's like, okay, you've got the title shot. And quit. Say I quit as well.
Yeah.
When I quit. I just thought it was a bit clunky in the delivery.
It is a bit clunky. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Particularly as well because the hot point of the match was the Swerve Hangman stuff.
That was magnificent.
Which was superb.
So we talked about the finish, which is the only flat thing for me. But yeah, the best thing was Swerve and Hangman. So we get everyone coming out. It's Darby and Jack Perry who start. Nick Jackson's in next. Then it's Mark Briscoe. Then it's Matt Jackson. Then it's Anthony Bowens. And when Bowens gets in, never really saw him as a hardcore guy. He took the violence up a notch.
He started stabbing people with scissors.
He was like, I'm not going to use a chair.
No.
I'm not going to do this kendo stick. I'm going to go straight for blades.
Yeah. I'm going to get some actual scissors.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stab you with them.
So that's good. And then who is it who comes out after that? Okada's out next. With the complete opposite.
With a sign.
I'm not going to do any hardcore bumps.
Yeah, he actually didn't, did he? He took a Rainmaker, and that was pretty much about all he did. Not a Rainmaker, sorry, a buckshot.
Got a staple on his finger.
He did. That's actually one of my favourite spots in the match. When Swerve fights back and starts stapling everyone. Thought it was really, really good.
Send Max Caster's in as well. And then, so you got 4 and 4. And then, because the Bucks cheated earlier on with the coin flip, they had a gimmicked coin.
Yeah, took out Adam Pearce.
Actually, that's another negative. We'll get into that separately. Hangman Page's music hits. Hangman doesn't come out, though. Because, we all figured it out. He's going to attack Swerve when Swerve comes down. Swerve's music hits. He's walking down. Hangman attacks him. He's beating the crap out of him. And he does the sort of the first handcuff spot to the outside of the cage. And he just starts wailing on him with, I think it was a kendo stick.
Yeah, he hit him with a kendo stick. He also, they grabbed the belt and was like, you are not allowed this. I can't have you having this.
It's such good character work.
Yeah.
And that's when Matt Jackson grabs the mic and says, Hangman, you better get in here.
We've got a deal.
Or you're fired. And Hangman was like, okay. And he comes in. I thought that
And
was...
the very first thing he does is get in the face of one of his teammates.
Yeah, Okada.
Okada, yeah.
Who he accidentally buckshot lariats later on.
Yeah.
I think that's the Wembley match.
I think it's the Wembley match as well. We kind of theorized this last week that it might be the Wembley match. The great thing about Hangman at the moment is, like, what a unique character in here is that he is 100% the heel going up against Swerve Strickland, but could also be 100% the babyface going against Okada.
Yeah. He's hated in so many directions. It doesn't matter if you're a heel or a face.
Yeah.
I will hate you. So then we got a really cool spot where, and what a weird visual. Babyface Jeff Jarrett, babyface Daddy Ass, and babyface Prince Nana all taking out Brandon Cutler, heel Brandon Cutler, and then cutting a part of the cage and releasing Swerve to enter into the match.
Now, I'm not advocating for more of this sort of, the thing that you really don't like. Shouldn't Chrisopher Daniels been involved in this? Because you did set him up earlier in this. Like, what if Daniels comes down and gives him the pliers so that he can get into the match?
That would make a lot more sense.
Right? And it kind of would probably establish Daniels a bit more in this role.
What is his role?
Well, he's Tony Khan. This is his voice.
Yeah, okay. We'll get back to Daniels. So then Swerve gets in, he clears house, it's awesome, and all of a sudden everyone's down apart from Swerve in one ring and Hangman in the other.
The visual of Swerve just taking out the rest of the Elite while Hangman Page is just stood in the other ring watching all of this unfold was so cool.
That to me, I don't know if it's too soon to say this, but I was watching that and I thought, this is an all-time defining image of like this rivalry, or maybe even this year in AEW.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I got proper goosebumps of almost hearing Jim Ross in my head being like, "And now what? And now what?" As these two just like look at each other and they slowly walk towards each other. They get into the middle between the two rings and just start going at it.
Yeah,
and the crowd were chanting "Holy S!" And it's one of these things of like, me and Tempest talked about this a lot. When the final of the Owen happened, and he was like, "Look, I think they should have done Hangman Swerve at Wembley," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I think it makes more business sense to do Swerve and Danielson." And that's what I think. What's so fascinating about AEW at the moment is that I think both of those are correct answers. Like, I think Swerve and Hangman is Wembley, but I also think Swerve and Danielson is Wembley. That's a good problem to have.
Swerve and Ospreay could have also been Wembley.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ospreay MJF, because it's a great predicament.
Yeah.
After that, because they do brawl, but you don't get the full blow off, so they're really doing a good job of keeping that feud molten hot while not delivering too much satisfaction.
Yeah, the only real like violent thing that they did, aside from falling off the stage through a table, was he stapled him in the cheek with a staple gun. I liked the build of stapling. So he stapled Okada in the finger, and then sort of stapled Matt Jackson. He stapled Jack Perry in the neck, and then he stapled Hangman in the cheek as the final spot.
But just before that, all of the Elite got staple guns. Swerve's in the middle, and he's got his one staple gun, and they just start stapling him, and he goes down to his knees, and then Swerve's just smiling.
He laughs.
He's a sicko.
And
he gets up, and that's when he starts doing all that stuff.
So good.
That was the best part of the match, I thought.
I loved Mark Briscoe running wild with Jay Drillers.
Yep, that was also great. And earlier on, the first bit of violence, pre-scissors, they were going to do a Meltzer driver or a TK driver. Nick Jackson leaps off of the top rope. Mark Briscoe is already on the turnbuckle, jumps in, catches him with a cutter.
Yeah.
Scorpion death drop from Darby. I'm like, ah!
Like, this was, it had its moments of sort of like downbeat stuff, not just much during the picture-in-picture, because there's some of the wild spots during the picture-in-picture. Like Bowen's falling off the cage, I think was during picture-in-picture. So they did this felt like a match was all action and, importantly, all violence. Like, it was just, from the outset, it was blood and guts. It was like a proper war between two groups of people that truly do hate each other, and they were going to really violent ends to show that.
Sorry, it was Swerve and Hangman brawling up the stage and falling off the stage. That was in the ad break. I'm pretty sure the Bowen spot was also in the ad break.
Yeah.
but it might not have been. It's hard to tell because we get the fight feed, but it did sound like we came back from break after those spots. Just before the finish, Darby hit a coffin drop by sort of monkey bar climbing the cage ceiling, which is really cool.
Really cool.
And that's when you get the ending, which we've already spoken about. Where did Okada go?
Well, he'd had enough of this hardcore nonsense. I actually did watch him. He's just, like in the other ring at one point. He just goes like, "Yeah, just gonna lay down here now."
Yeah, he's not into this style of match.
They did say when he got in the ring, it was like, "Who'd have thought in January that you'd see Okada in Blood and Guts?"
I read a Reddit comment. It was just like, I've seen Okada do an Anarchy in the Arena and a Blood and Guts match in the last couple of months. I cannot tell you a single hardcore spot he's done.
He's the Randy Orton of ladder matches.
But yeah, overall, excellent action, terrific match. One of the best, like, in-ring Blood and Guts matches they've done, I think.
This is my favourite Blood and Guts match they've ever done. I
Yeah.
thought this was like outstanding. Finish aside, because I think that is 4 of these in. They still have not quite found the satisfying conclusion to these matches yet, apart from that Kingston one, which I thought was like exceptional. Problem is, no one remembers that because the feud continued for like another 6 months after that. So no one looks at like how great that finish was. But I think as an actual like bell to bell, this was my favourite Blood and Guts match. I thought it was absolutely awesome.
Should we see what everyone thinks? Oh, actually, before we do, let's talk about Chrisopher Daniels. So earlier in the night, we get we're backstage with Bryce Remsburg, and he is going to enter the the locker room area to do the coin flip. And Bryce walks in, and the Elite are standing there, no Hangman, and not Adam Pearce. Chrisopher Daniels is just on the floor.
Yeah.
He's obviously been beaten up by them. So Bryce is like, so guys, just got to do the coin flip.
Hey, well, he's like, hey, well, we're supposed to be doing the coin flip now. And Matt Jackson like, well, we'll do it then. I'm the EVP. We'll do it now. I'm making decisions around here. And they used a gimmick coin to show that they won. And they like forced Bryce to call it.
Yeah. I thought Bryce looked pretty dumb here. And even if Chrisopher Daniels was beaten up, no one not brought up again for the rest of the show.
That's why it should have come out later.
That should have been a big deal, right? That the Elite have beaten up Tony Khan's physical avatar.
100% it should have been. But I don't think they've really gone in on this Chrisopher Daniels thing. And I think to its detriment.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not over, is because they've not really gone all in on it, if you pardon the expression. They haven't gone in on it. They did it as a way to have a babyface authority figure that isn't Kenny Omega and not Tony Khan. But they also just haven't really done it. And the one big thing that he's done since being there is strip the Bang Bang Gang of the trios titles, which he didn't really need to do.
And his explanation was, I don't like it any more than you do.
I don't like it any more, but Tony Khan's made me do it.
I hate this role.
I don't think they have... This had the potential to be a very good idea, and I don't think they've executed it particularly well. But you know what? I'm going to give them this little thumbs up here. At least the heels had the advantage.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
We've seen enough War Games matches now where people think that they're creative enough for the babyface to have the advantage, and they're not. It just only works when the heels have the advantage.
I think you could have given the babyfaces the advantage. Swerve's the second man down. Hangman attacks him. That's when he cuffs him to the thing.
Yeah.
And then
stuck there for a while.
Yeah, and he has to watch everyone not have the advantage. We got another segment just before we get into the chats. I just wanted to bring it up because I'm going to do a Rampage spoiler.
Yes.
So just skip 2 minutes if you don't want to hear a Rampage spoiler. The Team AEW promo backstage is just like Swerve saying, I'm the leader. Darby has an issue with him. And they all sort of combust before Mark Briscoe brings them back together in Team AEW. So Darby was quite angry with Swerve Strickland. And then on Friday's episode of Rampage, which was taped after the show, Darby won the Royal Rampage, which will give him a shot at the AEW World title at Grand Slam.
Is that what it is? It's a Grand Slam?
The 25th of September.
Okay, so he gets a shot at the world title on the 25th of September.
And of course, Darby's challenging Jack Perry for the TNT title in August.
Yeah.
So I mean, what do you think? Does Swerve lose the title, but Darby wins and they feud over that, or does?
Well, this is the thing. I didn't see Danielson winning the belt at all. Maybe that makes me feel that even less likely now that he is going to win. My sort of twofold, really. Number one is that the whole point of this thing is that Danielson is done, sort of after All In. Like, actually, they've made it part of the storyline there. His contract is up on, they said it on TV, my contract is up on August 1st. And that is my kid's birthday. And that is when I said I would stop doing this. So they are making that part of the storyline. So either he wins and he has to vacate the belt, and you kind of do what we're going to do with Mick Foley at WrestleMania 2000, which is if Mick wins the belt, he's still retired, but we're going to do a tournament and crown a new champion, which I'm not massively into. Which means
we just had it with Sting.
I'd rather we just have Swerve win, but at the same time, Tony Khan seems like the sort of person that would just be like, yeah, but what a feel-good moment it'll be for you to win the title in your retirement match.
What a moment. Where have we heard that before? Let's get into your thoughts on the Blood and Guts. We have quite a few chats in already. Send them into WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5. Blake Whitehouse says, I feel this needs to be addressed. Blood and Guts War Games needs to be announced way in advance because they are the only match gimmicks that require the venue to be set up differently for ticket sales. Business and logistics-wise, it cannot happen organically.
But they did announce it in advance.
Yeah, they announced it like 6 weeks in advance.
Yeah, they feel like they announced it and they booked the venue ages ago.
So and it was a good crowd, I think. They had like 5,000-6,000 people there.
And a hot crowd as well. You could tell that it was like packed out.
Hannah Allen, Blood and Guts. This was the best ever. I don't think it's a hot take. Sue me, X. Spotfest deliciousness. Hanny, hungy, yummy, yummy. Just chaos. And I loved it. Whispered to Matt Jackson, get Hangman angry. Phew. Is it hot in here? Loving Okada, lol. Insane fun, 100%. By the way, loving all this new WrestleTalk content. Keep it coming, please. Love you guys. Lots of love. Jam that jam.
Lots of love to you. Thank you very much.
EJO says, good day, EW. I feel that Blood and Guts being on TV led to a lot of pacing issues, exemplified by one of the rules being participants will enter every few minutes. Feels like you need to make too many compromises to make it work on TV. Obviously, learn from WWE and don't give Blood and Guts its own dedicated pay-per-view, but Khan needs to break the handcuffs of tradition and only put the event on when it makes storyline sense and on a grander stage than Dynamite. Love your guts, WrestleTalk.
Honestly, that would be my thing. Unless I don't need it to be a pay-per-view thing, I think it does work for a TV. And I felt this didn't have any pacing issues. I thought the first one certainly did. Like, I remember watching the fight feed of that one because we did live reactions to it. And I remember saying on the live side, like, you can tell they're an ad break here. I didn't feel that at all on this one, to the point when they did some spots, I didn't realize they were in picture-in-picture until like I saw people talking about it online afterwards. So I don't feel like there was pacing issues, but I do agree that this shouldn't be something that you just do around this time every year, in the same way that War Games shouldn't be every November. And NXT had this exact same problem, and now the main roster's getting this exact same problem. I just feel like it should be, and now it's going to be this, which kind of actually, unfortunately, ties into what Blake was saying at the start, which is you need to advance this really far in advance.
Will Campbell. Hi guys, I thought the match was awesome. However, I think Blood and Guts should be on pay-per-view. The PI picture-in-picture made some of the bigger spots harder to see, and during the final ad break, it just cut to commercial entirely, and so I couldn't see Paige and Swerve's table spot.
That's restaurant quality, though.
That is a shame, and I think that's what EJO was meaning about the pacing issues as well. It's the ad breaks. Yuva Flay says, was it just me, or was that the best Blood and Guts so far? Darby getting a TNT title shot at All In feels a bit unnecessary, though. Do you think at this point that any of the other pillars will ever be world title contenders?
Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? They're building up Jack to certainly be one of their top heel acts, so he'll be in that world title scene. And Darby has been one of their guys they've kind of pegged from the start to be.
Oh, peg.
To be one of their top guys.
Andy Sandbox says, I appreciate that everyone has reasons to be in Blood and Guts on an individual level. Hangman, Swerve, and Darby Jack especially. This wasn't a faction war. They've been building to bits and pieces since Swerve said he wanted next shot at Elite. Honestly, I also enjoyed the ending. Mox verbally submitted last year with little focus, but this finish was very focused and narratively important, with a mic and a threat of murder. Also, great show from top to bottom. Every segment delivered. All In looks great so far.
Yeah, I mean, the card is really, really tasty for it. And singles matches.
Well, hopefully we get that 4-person women's match, though.
I mean,
it's historic.
All In is known for fatal 4-way matches in the women's division.
I want to see, like book the women's division better signs. Now we're getting 2 matches. Just keep like moving the goalposts.
Or
for fatal 4 women. Book it, Tony, you coward.
If there isn't one at All In, I want people to take signs that says, "Where's my 4-way? Where's my fatal 4-way?"
Cameron P1, I was there. Definitely the best wrestling show I've seen live. Crowd was so awesome and Blood and Guts ruled. So happy to be a part of it. Thank you, lads, for all you do. Never miss a podcast. Thank you for making such a great atmosphere for that show. The roller coaster. Hey guys, the Omega chat is both for calling Jeff Jarrett the biggest babyface in AEW and that BAD joke at the start of the show. But what a match. Scissors can both bring us together and be absolutely horrifying. Push Bowens. Have a great day. Bowens is always terrific.
Yeah.
I would like to see him break out of the Acclaim now.
That's what people have been asking for a while.
Kevin, I really enjoyed the Blood and Guts match. I didn't mind the ending that much. Maybe a Page versus Okada for #1 contendership at All Out. That's a good idea. I am, however, ready for both companies to stop doing every year but I get why. But I get why they continue. Also, death match for Tony versus Mariah.
I think that match could be a bloodbath. And I think they should try and make it a bloodbath.
I'm ready to die. Are you?
Oh, such a good line. Oh my god, I loved that angle so much.
Sheldon Jackson. This was the 3rd year in a row that heels win Anarchy in the Arena and baby faces win Blood and Guts. The pinnacle of the only heels to win Blood and Guts. The men who said I quit or tapped in Blood and Guts in AEW, Guevara, Menard, Mox, and Matthew Jackson.
Facts.
That is an interesting thing that it's a baby face. It takes all the steam out of the feud.
I think what takes steam is doing Anarchy in the Arena then Blood and Guts. Like I think they're just too close together, and that's again why I'm pushing for this idea that it shouldn't be annually on this year. I get you do it to pop a rating. I just don't think you need to tie it specifically to the time of year.
Yeah. And finally, for now, my introduction to War Games was with NXT. I think I prefer the old school rules, but surrender might be a bad step for modern wrestling. If not a pinfall, then it should be win by submission. Happy for AEW. Tennessee really filled out the arena. Fun day. I think what AEW, for my tastes, have right is the lid.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's got, as the Americans say, a roof.
It's got a good lid. A roof? A roof.
Yeah, a roof.
A roof?
Yeah.
Do they say that?
They say a roof.
Do they?
Yeah. Brian Alvarez used to do this big thing on it because some of people would make fun of him for saying a roof. And then he was like, what am I supposed to say? A roof?
I've never heard this. I just like the idea that cells have lids.
Before we get into the show, however, can I play a trailer?
Oh, for what?
Well, thank you everyone who watched the first episode of Worst Match Ever on its brand new home over on partsFUNknown, where we watched a match from the historically terrible Heroes of Wrestling. The second episode is out this Friday, and we're going in a slightly different direction for this episode.
Welcome to Worst Match Ever, where we're on the search for the worst wrestling match of all time, and by its very definition, the best worst wrestling match of all time.
No, get the box! No, get the box! What gave him life? What the f*** is this?
He's gone jail! Oh, he's taking the bird! Not the bird!
No, he needs that. That's the thing that gave him life.
This isn't actually too unsimilar to the Bushwhackers match. People are just running into punches. Oh
no! No, Mecha Mummy, no!
Mecha Mummy's up top!
Projectile!
This is what people on Twitter think AEW is.
Ken the Box is all elite.
If Dark Elevation still existed.
Run it back!
Just run it back!
It's a lot of fun. You do a lot of that. I love Ken the Box versus Mecha Mummy. You're going to see full reactions to it. But it's, we mentioned him earlier. Referee by Bryce Remsburg, who does get involved in the finish as well, no less.
Which involves fire.
Yeah.
Just like...
I know. Spoilers for the finish of that match. We watched another match. We did another taping of Worst Match Ever. So episode 4 also is a Bryce Remsburg match. And I would say, and this might be a spoiler, people might be able to work out which match it is by just this description. He's the only person in the match.
Yeah, I know.
And Sullivan said, that is one of the best pieces of performance art I've ever seen.
It's like, well, actually, I won't say anything because I'll give away what it is.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yep, go and subscribe to partsFUNknown. Watch the first episode, which was, Heroes of Wrestling,
Linked
Iron
to in the video
Sheik. Yeah,
description.
go watch that. Give it some love. Share it around. We need it to get up in the views. And then also make sure to watch episode 2 with Ken the Box and Mecha Mummy on Friday.
Yes, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Tomorrow is Friday.
I thought it was Wednesday.
I did too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Why?
But I said in the intro to this before that, I was like, it's out this Friday. And then it was only now I'm like, oh yeah, that's tomorrow. This week's gone by really quickly. I think it's because you and I did WrestleTalk Extra on Monday.
You could say out. It's out June 26th.
Oh, well, July 26th is what
July 26th.
Now who looks like the thicko?
Right, Alex Marvez is the answer.
When Marvez's face, I actually had to pause the screen at the start, mostly because I was like, "What is his name?" Because I was
Really?
I was writing up my notes. I'm like, MJF has stabbed Will's tires, so Will borrows. And I kept being like, "It's not Alex Abrahantes. What is his name?" And then I was like, Marvez. It was Marvez.
He's a day one OG AEW guy.
He's a former, like he used to be. I was a subscriber to the Observer. Used to
Sure
write
he
things
still
with him.
is.
Yeah.
Well, he seems like a lovely guy. I don't know if he's grown into this role as backstage interviewer, but he's there. So he starts off the episode. It's a cold open, and he is in the AEW hotel, which is just where all the AEW people are staying that week.
Yeah.
Not an actual licensed AEW hotel with different entrances for bad guys and good guys.
If only.
No, that's a defunct land sort of video right there.
Or it's their next mobile game. It's like Theme Hospital, but it's the AEW hotel.
So Marvez wants to talk to Ospreay. Ospreay is weirdly not already at the show.
Well, it was earlier in the day, I think they said.
Okay. And Ospreay comes down and he's going to get into his car, but the car has a knife through the tire, so he can't drive it.
Can't go.
And he panics and asks Marvez if Marvez has a car. Well, yeah, he does. It's over there. Camera reveals a pretty swish-looking car for Marvez.
Marvez is a pretty... Oh, it's a day one OG. You know, they were throwing out those big money contracts to get everyone to sign originally.
Yeah, 8-year contract for Alex Marvez. I don't stand by the idea I'm about to propose because I think maybe this was a little bit too wacky. I would have pulled back, been a bit more serious, considering like the last thing we saw in this feud was Ospreay MJF hour-long awesomeness. However, how much funnier would it have been if the camera reveals a beaten up old...
A banger.
Like a banger.
Yeah.
It barely moves. Well, that's my car. And Ospreay's like, we're doing it anyway.
Bruv, get in.
Bruv. You're shotgun. So yeah, then Ospreay gets in the car, which is fair enough at the moment. And then Marvez goes, wait a second. Have you driven in America before? And Ospreay's like, nope. And then Marvez... and this is a pretty accurate sound because I've watched it 3 times, goes, ah!
Well, okay. If I can poke a logic hole in this, why'd you have a car then? If you, William, have never driven in the US, why have you got a car in the hotel car park?
So was that going to be his maiden first trip?
Was that your first drive? Was
Yeah.
it? Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think there's logic holes abound here.
I think this is a fun segment. Just don't do that final joke of, wait a second.
Particularly because, like, when he comes out and he's full of piss and vinegar against MJF, I'm like, well, that's what I'm after.
Well, so this goes into the actual episode, which opens with an MJF title celebration. He's got cheerleaders lining the ramp. He's got... well, that's about it, actually. But he comes in and he cuts a promo. He talks about how Will's a coward. He also says he hasn't forgotten about his world title.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten about you, Swerve. I'm just going to pick my moments.
It's a shame there are so many titles. Because right now I'm like, okay, well, I can see them building MJF Swerve they both have titles. Darby and potentially Swerve, they might both have titles. Okada and Hangman for a number one contendership to the world title. Okada has a title.
I'd imagine that is going to be for the title.
There's too many men with titles. Too many men. You're not coming in the club.
There's too many men now. That is AEW's big problem. There's too many blokes.
Too many men with titles. And then he does the funny stuff about how easiest match he's ever done.
That was great. Most dominant win of all time. Barely broke a sweat.
Then he says, so Will Ospreay's grandma legitimately passed away a couple of weeks ago, I think. And MJF says that Will's grandma died recently. He should dig his grave next to hers. Cool line. Well, pretty ruthless line. And obviously, I imagine it was signed off by Will. When Will came in later, I wanted that emotional Will response to that line.
Don't talk about my nan, bruv.
Yeah. As opposed to, I'm going to get a rematch for the world title, which would be like, you've made a big mistake now. Because Will's so good when he taps into that sort of family stuff. You could make the argument, which is, how did Ospreay hear that?
Yeah, he was driving to the building.
How can you hear the radio over Marvez going, Arr! But it's a shame that they missed that. Like, otherwise it's just a cheap throwaway line.
But that is the Mac style, though, isn't it? Right? Like, and I quite enjoy this. Just before I came down here to record, actually, Tempest said to me, "He's like, look, I'm going to ask you a question." I said, "What is that?" And he goes, "Is MJF rubbish now?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, that's what Twitter keeps telling me, is that MJF sucks now." And I'm like, "Well, that's because Twitter's full of idiots."
Yeah.
But I think
bots.
And bots. I think this is great. And porno girls. I think this is great because Max's whole deal was, like, you can, like, pinpoint this and you go, like, chart this cross. He was a different person when he came back, then suddenly realized, I've been leapfrogged in popularity by a bunch of people. I'm no longer the top dog around here. I'm also not as beloved by the fans as much anymore. So I'm just going to go back to what I know is true to me and the thing that makes me feel most comfortable in myself, which is I go back to being MJF. I've seen some people be like, this is complete character regression. I'm like, no, this is character progression. He is doing this because of what has happened to him previously. So him doing fat jokes and dead grandma jokes is, like, so brilliant because that is just like, that is tapping into the MJF of old, because that's what he feels like he needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm enjoying what MJF's doing. I just think the grandma death line is like a tombstone power driver off the second rope for a near fall.
Well, yeah,
I think that
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
that's such a big line. You build a feud off of that.
Yeah. Well, there's still time.
I think you need to follow up immediately.
I don't think you need to do everything in this one angle. There is still time to tap into.
But Will's already made his reply, and he didn't address that.
You can address it in another promo.
No, I don't think. I think the sort of it's moved on from that. So then MJF starts talking about workhorse titles, which is really funny. Working hardest for pause. Then he literally throws the international title in a bin.
In a bin. They had a bin outside, and he just went, drop that in the bin. Missed it. Actually hit it, unlike Nikki Cross.
Trash can, for American listeners. And he unveils a new one. And I was fully expecting a Burberry-style belt. I wasn't expecting Kevin Owens' Face of America gimmick from 2017.
Alex, Queen of the Ring, summed this up, my favorite. She was like, I can't quite explain it, but that belt looks like Lex Luger. And, like, it's like, it does actually. Yeah, it does look like Lex Luger.
So it's called the American Championship now, which is the third name for that title since its inception 2 years ago.
But it's not, like, this is a parody. This is not like, when Will wins this back, he has not won the American Championship. And we know that because he picked out the International Championship from the bin. This is Will doing a parody of what... Sorry, this is MJF doing a parody of what Will did in New Japan.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good parody.
I'm not saying it's a good parody. I'm just saying that that is what this is. It is a parody of what Will did with the US title, the IWGP US Championship, where he names it the United Kingdom Championship.
The weird thing here is that, of course, Americans, we love you, but God, Pavlov dog, right, with a US flag. USA! Forgetting it's MJF just insulted the poor guy's dead grandma.
Yeah. And he shut that down very quickly, though, because he was like, I mean, I appreciate the USA chance, but I'm not talking about here. Like, I'm talking about the actual good bit of America, which only exists in one place, and that is beautiful Long Island, New York.
Yeah,
And the crowd booed.
The crowd booed, but I think... this psychology is off for me. I mean, I love both performers. I loved the match last week. But everything here just felt slightly off.
Okay.
The the parodying of the UK title belt, I totally get that, which doesn't really do it for me. The crowd cheering the belt when it's unveiled, even though he does shut it down, I still think, well, yeah, you slam on Kentucky, or where were they? Nashville.
Nashville, yeah.
But the rest of the country is still watching this. It's building. So Will Ospreay is going to be wrestling for the American title in Wembley in England.
Yeah, and then he can rename it
the UK belt.
Well, name it to the International Championship and reclaim, because like MJF's whole thing is like, I'm not going to be an international guy. Like, I don't buy into this workhorse related thing. I'm an American.
He's going to CMLL this week, isn't he?
But that's kind of that's part of the joke, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not terrible, but I'm just so used to Max's stuff surpassing my wildest expectations.
Okay, yeah.
So it's weird when something is like, oh, this feels like 80% quality. But they did have a fantastic flag where it unfurled Rusev style behind him.
Yeah.
But it was Max's face for all the stars.
Yeah.
Will chases him off, says that Max cheated, and he's agreed a rematch at All In with Tony Khan.
I mean, I'm glad they're doing the rematch. I've literally written here, they are doing the match at All In. Phew. Because I'm glad that is the match that they have chosen to do. And then, yeah, he gets the international belt out of the bin. Basically as a way to tell you, the audience, this is not now just the new belt. We are going to be bringing back this old belt once Will wins it back.
If I cared more about that belt, maybe I'd...
Well, yeah, I think but that sounds like a you problem.
There. Jericho then took on Suzuki. Did you like this?
This was my arguably my favorite thing on the show.
I know what you mean.
Son of a bitch, he's done it again.
Jericho Suzuki, it's just chops. It's 8 minutes of chops in a 12-minute match. What does Jericho do 8 minutes in? He kicks him.
The crowd started chanting "chop forever" at one point. I wrote in my notes here, my first note is chopping battle early. Oh, I didn't know. I did not know what was coming.
So Jericho's chest just becomes ham. Yeah. Bloody ham. And not just welts, not just like a little bit of ooze. Full gushing, I'm Dustin Rhodes facing Cody Rhodes head blood.
Yeah, this was just like, he chopped him so hard in the tits that his tits bled. And like, what was is the beautiful visual of it as well, because they were just chopping each other back and forth and stuff. And Suzuki's just got these beautifully wicked chops. By the way, probably the best Suzuki match in I've almost forever. It feels like a long time since I've enjoyed a Suzuki match this much. I enjoy Suzuki matches to a degree, but I think there's a certain intangible quality to a Suzuki match, and I got it here. And he's chopping him back. Jericho's selling each and every one of them, probably for realsies, because his tits are bleeding. But he's chopping Suzuki back just as hard. And Suzuki's chest is also beet red. It is like red raw and stuff. But he's not fazed by it. Just keeps walking up to him and doing it again. and doing his murder grandpa stuff. It was just wonderful.
I've also got to put over Suzuki's kick out at one after a code breaker.
Yeah.
I popped for that more than any chop. I love that bit. But Jericho low blow, it's legal. It's FTW
legal.
rules. Judas Effect to retain. Really fun match.
Really, really good.
And then right after, Suzuki just rises from the dead.
He's like, oh, is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Gotch pile driver, Brian Keith and Big Bill come down. They were banned ringside from the match, which was good, because then we just got to focus on the chops. And Shibata made the save. Just overall, I thought everyone came out looking better. Really fun time.
Yeah, and they were
huge win.
Putting over on commentary as well. Like, if you're a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you know the relationship and the history between Suzuki and Shibata and the wars that they have had. So those two sort of like standing side by side. And I imagine they'll probably do a tag match together.
Oh, do you not think eventually a singles match, just chops?
I mean, they could do.
Because you could do a safe match with Suzuki. Doesn't really take bumps and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Shibata did an FTW rules match. So I think he's fine.
Renee is going to talk to the new CMLL Women's World Champion Willow Nightingale because Stephanie don't know what happened to the
I don't know what happened. Yeah, I mean, it turns out they've just signed Delta, who's an Australian wrestler. She's allowed to finish her dates. So weird that Stephanie Baker just like I guess it's just sometimes these things just happen. She just wasn't
scheduling.
Scheduling. Yeah, she just couldn't finish her dates.
And Chris Statlander attacked Willow before they had any chance to do an interview. And Stokely Hathaway said, well, how about a title eliminator for that title next week? And what did you think?
That is what AEW always do.
Well, I just thought, if you're in this position, why not just book yourself a shot at the title?
Because the rules are you do eliminator matches before you do the world title matches.
That's not always the case, though.
That is the case.
But it's a CMLL title.
Maybe it's a CMLL politics thing.
I was just like, oh, right, I'll get excited about that then. A shot of the title.
Yeah.
Renee interviews Bryan Danielson from earlier in the day. He's talking about physically healing up. Jeff Jarrett comes over. Just the wise man of AEW now. He's got such a gravitas about him. And he says he believes in Danielson, but he shouldn't keep coming up with excuses. You need to mentally toughen up.
Well, he said to him, like, look, I know you're talking openly about your contract is up and you're going to be going home to look after your kid. Mentally, you're half out the door. And that is, I'm rooting for you. Like, it was such an honor to be able to raise your hand. You know how much the Owen tournament means to me. So it meant an awful lot for me to raise your hands. So if you're going to be all in, you need to be all in. So it was quite nice and sort of, thematic for the pay-per-view as well.
I hope this is the last Danielson I don't really care segment.
I think so as well. I wonder if all he needed was Jeff Jarrett to come up and give him the sage advice.
Which is why I haven't stopped thinking about this since this morning. Bryan Danielson wins the AEW World Championship. The first title defense is at Grand Slam against Jeff Jarrett.
Darby's won the...
Oh, no! At All Out. Damn. Well, I would have... Jeff Jarrett should get a title shot against Danielson.
What we're always saying is that Jeff Jarrett... Jeff is our new Penta. It should always be Jeff.
But we were doing it ironically last year.
What are you talking about, ironically?
Britt Baker then took on Shida. This felt like a throwback, didn't it? Both of these two.
They showed a video package beforehand showing the wars that they've had, the titles that they've switched back and forth and stuff. I thought it was really cool. And then they had a baller match. I thought this match was great.
I thought it was a good match. I didn't think it was blowaway. I was just it was really nice to see Britt Baker back, and I think she's got real star power. It felt like at the end of her run last time, there was a bit of Britt Baker fatigue, and that has all gone away. And this is oh yeah, Britt Baker's awesome again.
It's the argument of it. I can't miss you if you don't go away.
Shida thought about cheating, getting that kendo stick, but she thought better of it, and Britt caught her with a lockjaw to win. Out comes Mercedes Moné, who got a great heel reaction.
Yeah, interrupting Britt Baker crucially here.
And she said that she's not going to give Baker the match All In. And then Camille, former NWA Women's World Champion, made her AEW debut and beat up Baker with a torture rack into a sit-down powerbomb, I think.
So she is now the muscle for Mercedes Moné, which I think is a really cool little partnership.
Crowd didn't really pop for Camille. I don't think they really knew what was going on.
Yeah, she's not like a... if you're watching a lot of wrestling, who's watching NWA, apart from, Father James Mitchell and Smashing Pumpkins fans. I think those are the only sort of people there. And James Mitchell doesn't know that he's actually watching the show because he's too busy.
Brodus Clay.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that he's probably watching it as well. EC3, there's probably another one. So she's not got that name value. So, and because they own the name value, the face value, people don't recognize her when she got in the ring. Kind of reminded me a bit when Jamie Hayter debuted.
Yeah. It's not a big whoa signing. It's here's a new character, but now you've got to build them up.
Exactly.
Patriarchy are backstage. They're talking about winning the trios titles. And then Nick Wayne's going to be in that Royal Ramble match is what they were talking about. And
Royal Ramble, eh?
Royal Rampage. Nick Wayne goes up to Kip Sabian afterwards and says, no one cares, your dad's dead.
I didn't recognize it was Kip Sabian at first.
Yeah, I didn't either.
No.
Dan?
Yeah. Like, who's this lad?
So that and the grandma line. I tend to go, nothing's off limits, really. But in moderation.
Yeah.
I just thought this was a bit too much family bereavement for one show.
If I was to do one of them, I'd have done this one because it ties more thematically in with Christian's shtick.
Yeah. And Nick Wayne telling someone else.
Yeah, no one cares.
That is a good beat.
And it's not even just go up to someone and be like, look, Christian's not even going to make fun of your dead dad because like no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like an even bigger burial. But yeah, it feels like with the MJF one, I would imagine Will just said to him, was like, oh look, my nan died, so if you want to put that in a promo, go ahead.
Yeah.
Whereas I think thematically this one works better.
Pac then beat Boulder in a pretty decent squash match. I thought Boulder looked good.
He always does.
Yeah. And then, that was actually it. There's no other notes I've got there.
No, I've got 3 words. Pac wins quickly. But it's what is he going to be doing at All In? Because that's his next, his next move forward. I'm going to bring forward my pitch again, which is that you do their gauntlet match. Mm-hmm. You do that at All In, the winner gets a title shot for All Out.
Well, he already won an international title shot in that 4-way match.
Yeah. Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, he did.
But it's the American Championship now, so...
Null and void.
And then the final segment we got was Mariah May just doing a squash match against Kaitland Alexis. I like this.
2 women's matches?
But I like that. I also like 2 squash matches. It really helped build Pac. It really helped build Mariah May.
I was calling for this a few weeks back when Daniel Garcia went out and he won a quick squash match. I was like, do this in the women's division because like you kind of need it. And also when you've got 2 big storylines you've got at the moment with Mercedes Moné and Baker and now Storm and May, you do need to do more women's segments on the show. I think statistically this has got the most feature of like women's division segments on like any show in Dynamite in recent times.
I wasn't a fan of, I thought it was quite underwhelming, Mariah May's segment last week.
Yeah.
But like as soon as the bell rang here and she did this sort of shotgun drop kick, I was like, well, here we are.
Yeah.
And she did a running hip attack, Storm 0 to win, of course, Tony Storm's moves. And then Tony's music hits. Mariah May looks up the ramp. There's no one there. But then, entering the ring in a disguise is Tony Storm.
This ruled.
Yeah, really
this
good.
Pull-apart brawl was so great. And the crowd were like so into Tony Storm, like because they were so excited that she was there. Like when her music hits, you can see so many like cranking their necks down to see her come out the entrance ramp. So they got like pops huge when she got in the ring. And yeah, she just shouts, "Are you prepared to die? Because I am." Yeah. Oh, I thought this was awesome. This is the hot follow-up angle that the angle needed. You couldn't do this 1 week after because you want to have Tony Storm gone for 2 weeks in order to sell the angle. But you needed something a bit... I think actually you could have done... I'd have done the squash match last week with May. Like something like this, and then you could have done another squash match this week and then the angle, rather than May doing the promo. I get why you do a promo to explain your actions. It just didn't land. But this, I thought this was an awesome, awesome follow-up.
Heated it right back up.
Yeah.
And then we had the Blood and Guts match.
With a hype package narrated by Dean Malenko.
That was cool, with a sort of 90s VHS effect on the, the graphics.
So, I mean, the reports are, because he's obviously dealing with Parkinson's at the moment, but like apparently like he's just beloved backstage. So this was like a really like celebratory thing. There was like Dean Malenko got to do a voice package. And they had a title card narrated by Dean Malenko.
Good for him.
So cool.
Overall, I gave it 90%. I think it's of the shows I've seen this year and rated, it's the 4th best show of the year for me.
That was a really good show. I actually thought this was an awesome episode of Dynamite. Really, really good. I don't think it was a bad segment on the show. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the opening segment. I loved the Blood and Guts match, finish aside. I loved the Mariah May stuff. I loved the Suzuki Jericho match. Was so great. Like, the Pac thing is fine, but it's not like it was bad. I thought this was awesome all over.
Chrisopher Daniels.
Can't win them all.
Thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon. We couldn't do this stuff without you. So go over there. Please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We've got loads of new exclusive treats there as soon as August hits. And also, if you pledge at the $30 amount, you get a shout out on this very show. So thank you. He clashed at the castle, William Wallace.
Willie Biggie Singleton.
The Lumberjack, XX Logs XX.
The Iron Zeke.
Hey... Bailey Reichert.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore.
The Magic Man, Brian Blaine.
The Blade Bearer, Christopher Sordillo.
Let Him Cook, Alex.
And of course to our moderators, Andy,
Ian.
Jack,
James.
John,
and Les.
and because she'll never put her name down, Mod Mother Jenna. And Brandon, I
Thank you.
guess, as
Yeah,
well. Like,
Brandon.
where's Brandon's shout out?
They make it a very nice place for all you to hang out in the chat. So give them some cheap pops in the comments. For the mods. Right, so our remaining Omega chats, last call for those, WrestleTalk.com/support. Corey says, was there live and I thought Jericho lost a nipple from those chops. I'm also surprised Darby didn't jump off the top of the cage and my throat hurts from cheering, booing. Incredibly fun show. Now I make the 3-hour drive home back to Memphis. Cheers, lads.
Oh, safe journey home. I'm glad you had a great time. Jericho, like, bleeding, man. It's nuts.
Samad Ali.
Hey,
haven't
haven't
heard from
you in a while?
Samad for a while. Brian versus Swerve feels like a red herring to me since the story is heavily focused on Hangman's revenge against Swerve. Any chance he is added in the title match or replaces Brian? Jeff Jarrett was never an official referee in the Owen final.
No, I think it's not a red herring or a Swerve. Like, that is the match. We talked about it before. I think the business optics are better to it to be Swerve and Danielson when you're selling tickets. But what they're doing is letting you know this is still something we're doing. We are going to do Hangman and Swerve at some point later on.
Hannah Allen says, speak. Well, I'll say it. Speak, bitch. Whoa, Shivani. Professionalism, man. Hello, lovelies. I really enjoyed this episode, lads. MJF is back to his true form. Ospreay's passion was brilliant. Love this match. Is it a possible 3-way with Pac? I don't think so.
No, I think they would have announced that.
Suzuki and Jericho wasn't what I thought it would be. Bit of fun. Women's spots this episode felt a little more natural with a proper time and opportunity given. Funny that. I know how we have all given AEW many a chance. I fall for it every time myself. 3 out of 4, lol. However, I felt this was and is a step in the right direction. I miss Baker like so much. Felt the angle at the end was interesting, right?
Yeah, I thought all of that was you're absolutely spot on there, and I think we've been calling probably since day one of us reviewing the 251 episodes of AEW Dynamite. Do a bit better with this women's division.
Book the 4-way.
Think of the history.
EJO says again, oh, and with regards to the finish, I reckon they did it in the wrong order. It should have been Matthew surrenders blood and guts first, then Darby goes to light Jack on fire, and then negotiates the TNT title shot. Oh, that would have actually been a bit better.
That's actually a really good idea.
Also, MJF should have made it the New York title.
That I really like, but that only works then when you're doing it in America, but the idea is you're defending it in the UK. And, I mean, we're supposed to hate all of America, not just specifically New York. And I think New York's a lovely place.
One-man cast, a 15-month member. Well done. My prediction, MJF retains his American Championship at Wembley via Daniel Garcia betraying Ospreay. We wouldn't have Ospreay lose twice and the second one being in his hometown.
Unless, of course, he's... I mean, he did say no one should be above putting over the champion. You know, maybe he's got Bryan Danielson in his ear as well, being like, it's fun to lose.
And lie.
And lie.
Kuzu says, how am I expected to care about Danielson winning after seeing that Swerve Hangman interaction last night? The crowd was on fire before they even locked up. Think Danielson winning but Owen was the wrong call, and last night reinforced that to me.
There's still time. There's time. Now that we've done Blood and Guts and you had the angle with Jarrett and Brian, I think next week is when we'll see the build now to Danielson and Swerve.
Honestly, Danielson just has to cut one promo. And if it's the right promo, I think we'll all be in love with this last chance title shot story. Shellard says, hi guys, not going to lie, I'm not a huge fan of the new American Championship design. What's your guys' opinion? Love you guys. Can't wait for All In.
Well, I think it's supposed to look gaudy and bad.
Like Lex Luger. Yeah. Misha Sumra!
Hey.
All the familiar names. Ospreay should have got a lift from Sue Beretta. Trent's mum.
Yeah.
CHOAS member.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Is that the name of the car she drives?
Suzuki CHOAS. Chat on the podcast last week suggested Will and MJF trading the title back and forth for a bit. What if the holder uses their belt? Renaming it each time leads to a unification. Bucky O'Hare is bout.
So what you're advocating for there is 2 titles.
I like the hot potatoing.
Yeah, me too.
But not more titles. Space Viking says, I don't know what Brian's deal is, but we say roof here, lol. So they do say roof in America.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they were giving him a hard time. Anyway, I kind of think Hayter might show up to help DMD. That will be a huge pop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd love that. But I hope not. She should break away, face or heel. I think she has the best potential.
My fantasy booking was Mariah May beats Storm at All In, and then as she's celebrating, that's when Hayter comes in. And then you've kind of got this, a 3-way feud you can do between Toni Storm, Mariah May, and Jamie Hayter. Basically just reliving stardom.
Yeah. Kenneth Perales says, greetings from Chicago. Loved AEW, Blood and Guts. I'm actually flying to London for AEW All In. Was just wondering if you guys are doing a watch-along party or after party. Been a fan of the show since the beginning. Hope we can share a beer while in the UK.
Well, we are working on something at the moment. So keep your eyes peeled to our socials, and on the podcast we'll be announcing something relatively soon. We're hoping for as well, but we're hoping to do some sort of fan get-together.
Yeah.
Which I'm ironing out details currently.
George Todd, finally for now, says, I don't watch AEW, but today is 1 year of losing my best friend. We used to watch WWE together. Special. Note, if you think your friend is down, reach out, even if it's difficult. # support each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good bit to end it on for the chats there. And Jim Cam So Vong is a brand new member. Thank you very much for that.
Well,
what's the overall poll?
Let's have a look at the overall poll. We have got 90% thumbs up. That doesn't happen often where people are exactly the same as your percentage score. 6% thumbs in the middle.
And then
3-4%. And then the rest of them are the people who are just going to vote down regardless.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here today. Please go over to PFK and watch the last video of Worst Match Ever. There's a link in the video description below. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. That's been Luke Owen. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.